You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
You can play outside longer if you wear sunscreen. You can fly higher on a half-pipe with a helmet. And you wouldn't jump out of an airplane without a parachute. Your finances are no different. Protecting your future allows you to go after your goals more aggressively. Explore this unique perspective beside an agent with the backing of New York Life. Insurance, investments, retirement, and more. Visit NYL.com to learn more. Investments are offered through registered representatives of NYLife Securities, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC, a New York Life company.
You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com. We are supported by listeners like you. Donate per month or make a one-time donation through PayPal or Patreon at wearelibertarians.com. Welcome to We Are Libertarians. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. We bring you all of the irreverence modern politics deserves while putting people before political parties. We examine current events from a libertarian perspective with the goal of leaving you better informed. We're trying to make you sound smarter with your friends. Please be sure to rate and review us on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and become a subscriber on Patreon at wearelibertarians.com. Without your financial support, independent media like this cannot exist. In exchange for supporting our program, we give you great bonus content. This show is crowdsourced, so if you want to send us news, use the hashtag WALNews or in our Facebook group or Discord channel, which you can find at wearelibertarians.com. We are always taking your questions and comments via email at editor@wearelibertarians.com. Please be warned, I'm struggling tonight, everybody, that this show is raw, unedited, and authentic, so the language is sometimes strong and offensive. In this show, we're going to talk about the Libertarian Party. We have a little tough love for the Libertarian Party, its chairman, its vice chairman, the party as a whole, and what we expect as members. So that's what we're going to talk about. But first, let me introduce. This is probably the most handsome episode of We're Libertarians in history. Ladies, if you are listening, you're going to want to go watch the YouTube version of this because we have three good-looking gentlemen on the show tonight, starting with me, and then Shane Zoellner. Shane, you have like a pocket square and a flower and a suit on. You look great.
I had to do it up coming to the palace.
That's right. Well, you honor me, sir. So you look very good. You're also sitting on Harry's new chair. How does your butt feel?
It's nice and soft, and
yeah,
it's great.
Harry's delicate ass couldn't sit on one of my hard chairs, so he brought this dirty, dirty restaurant chair in here.
We need to get a throne.
I need to get a better chair because sometimes you can hear my chair, like, we'll do it now. You can hear it squeaking in the background because this is the table I grew up eating on, and this table's 30 years old. And underneath is, it's a wood table, and are the spiral notebook scratches from when I was doing my homework. So the chairs are all old, but in time we will get a professional studio with good chairs. But for now, you sit on Harry's throne. Shane just got married.
I did.
You did. I was invited to the wedding, and thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for coming.
Unlike our second guest who did not invite me to his wedding, Dakota Davis, the co-host of the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. What do you have to say for yourself?
Listen, man, it's just a small wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, it was close friends and family.
300-400
And, yeah.
Yeah.
We're only having 350 people come.
I'm not going to bust your balls because I was on the Boss Hog of Liberty last night, which is one of our sister podcasts that you can find at wearelibertarians.com. And I busted your balls pretty good about it. I was not invited to the bachelor party, nor was I invited to the bridal shower.
Nope. And I think that you were more upset about the bridal shower, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the ladies love Chris Spangle. What can I say?
Yeah, you were. That was in one of our chats. Was Audrey had said something about the bridal shower, and you said, "Great, another thing I wasn't invited to."
So it all stems from about a year and a half ago. It was at a Colts game, and Jeremiah Morrill, the host of Boss Hog of Liberty, was tailgating outside of a Colts game, and he invited Aaron and Greg and a couple other people, and so I just sit in there on a Sunday afternoon, and I see all my friends having a party that I didn't know about, and I was like, and so I just commented, "Thanks for the invite." Next thing I know is I get tagged in a photo with all of them taking a selfie, and Jeremiah just writes, hanging out at the Colts games with all my friends. And I was like, you dick, all your friends.
All of his friends.
So that's been the running joke is thanks for the invite. But
you tried pulling that on me, though, with the bachelor party. You said, well, at least all of your friends are there.
Right.
Which was not true because my best man wasn't even there.
Right.
So don't feel that bad about it. You couldn't make it to my
You
bachelor
should
party.
hear the list of people that was invited to the bachelor party before I was. I've given you, and you're like, what have you given me? I'm like, a podcast. I gave you a reason to exist. So now, Shane, you just got back from your honeymoon, right?
I did.
All right. How was that?
Great, except for the last day. I
What happened?
drank way too much.
Oh,
Where did you guys go?
St. Pete, Florida.
Oh, yeah?
It's beautiful.
Very nice.
Yeah.
nice. Now, Dakota, where are you going on your honeymoon?
We're going to Maui, Hawaii.
Big spender, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, obviously, you just made love for the first time, Shane.
I did, yes.
So can you please give Dakota sex tips?
Yeah, am I going to have to take notes for this?
Probably,
How expensive is it going to get?
You got like a 500-page binder?
All right. Well, we are excited for the two married men here. So ladies, they're handsome. You can just look at them, but don't touch. Don't be Kevin Spacey.
It just depends on how much money they're offering. Sometimes.
You better.
We're going to
hope.
auction off Dakota.
You better hope Audrey is not watching. And you know right now, Jeremiah is starting drama. You'll never guess what he's in one of your group chats.
Yeah.
What is going on? He said,
Audrey, turn on Facebook right now.
right. Oh, boy. Well, I couldn't be happier for you. I'm very excited for you to get married. Even though I'm not invited, it's fine. It's fine. Whatever. But it was a fun episode. I had a lot of fun on the Boss Hog of Liberty, even though Jeremiah was there. It is fun to just, I forget, I called it the Boss Hog of Liberty because Jeremiah's bossy. And he's not he's not awful. Jeremiah is one of my best friends in the world. And
Yeah, we make fun of him more than what he really is.
Right. Couldn't be a better human being alive, but he is bossy, and it showed in that episode. So you need to go to wearelibertarians.com and listen to the episode because I make sure to point out every single time he's being the boss hog of liberty. And Dakota couldn't have loved it more.
I was cracking up so hard.
There's not room for two ruthless dictators, is there?
No. That is a lesser kingdom. They are aware of it, and they show homage. Do you not?
We do.
Yep.
We still call him Dear Leader.
Yep.
As long as he returns the favor and calls Jeremiah Boss Hog.
Yes.
Okay. That's how it goes.
Good time. So be sure to check that out. We may or may not see James Nease tonight. So we have at least heard from him.
He told me 30 minutes ago he'd be here in 20 minutes.
Right. Well, one time he said he would be on time, and then he showed up 2.5 hours into the podcast. So, if you go to the Fireside site, wal.fireside.fm, and you look at the hosts and you see James Nease go to his first appearance, he just shows up 2.5 hours into the podcast and then tells, the craziest stories about, eating trash and, sleeping on beaches in Jacksonville and Skid Row in L.A. It was crazy. So
James Nease got kicked out of the Facebook group Ancapistan this week.
Really?
Yeah, he got a permaban. The ban hammer came down, which I didn't even know you could be banned from that group.
Explain the group.
It is just shit posting to a whole new level.
It's the dregs of the libertarian movement.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. It's full on alt-right sometimes.
Right.
It can be horrible.
Right.
A horrible place to be on Facebook.
James Nease is not welcome there.
That's the point that it got to. He's trying to troll this dude and is putting pictures of his children in the comments section. And one of the admins was like, "Dude, do you want me to ban this guy?" I'm sitting there watching it as it's all happening, watching the comments roll in, and I'm like, oh my God, James Nease is going to get kicked out of Ancapistan on Facebook.
James is a mod on 4chan, the random board. Do you know how powerful you have to be on the internet to get, and how long you have had to have been in the dregs of the internet to get that position?
Yeah, and see, that is a totally new thing. You just talk about 4chan with him, and then all of a sudden he'll be like, "Well, yeah, I'm a moderator on the B board," and you're like, what? And then I'm talking about Minecraft with him one day, and we're just talking, things that we've built and stuff. And I was like, so you're a regular player too then? And he goes, no, I just run a few of the servers.
Right.
Who is this guy? Like, where did you come from?
No, that's one of my favorite. Like, James is definitely someone that I've known since 2010. So I've known James a long time. And James is one of the most successful people I know, one of the smartest people I know, but also one of the worst people I know. And he is entertaining and hilarious, and I just think, he's kind of going to be the last holdover of my former offensive life, because he has a different perspective on almost everything, even if it is just like very bizarre and crass in the presentation. But if you really listen to what James says a lot of times, it really is very intelligent. Like, he's a very smart guy.
He's a really smart guy.
He's going to the University of Chicago right now. Like, he's just a mystery wrapped in enigma, wrapped in a riddle. Now,
he drove an hour and a half to go eat at a truck stop Indian restaurant with me and Jeremiah and our girlfriends in Spiceland, Indiana.
Right.
Like, he's just like, it was just a random thing. He just messaged us and goes, hey guys, you want to go check out that Indian restaurant in Spiceland?
At a truck stop?
Yeah. And we're
good,
sitting there eating. Yeah, we're sitting there eating. The food is delicious. I've never been there, and it looks so sketchy. And we're eating the food. I'm like, wow, this is surprisingly good for a truck stop.
Right.
And James is like, yeah, I just drove back from Louisville. What?
Way out of the way.
He apparently, like, donates sperm.
I was going to say, he's been doing a lot of breeding lately, from what I hear.
Yeah, he's Genghis Nease. He's like literally like the father of 100 people, apparently.
And counting.
Could you imagine?
What was the story of the one payment? It was like a $25 gift card to Burger King.
I don't remember that story.
I thought that was on one of the episodes where you guys talked about that with him.
Oh, my God. Well, yeah. The Nease episodes are worth hearing. You can go back and sort by host at wal.fireside.fm. What was your first encounter with Nease, Shane?
My first encounter with Nease was actually pretty mellow by all standards for Nease. We talked a lot of business.
Okay.
So, surprisingly, I didn't know the other side of it until later.
Right, yeah. So he looks kind of like Tiny Tim. Like, Google Tiny Tim. From the Carson years, like, and yeah, he's just. I saw him in a 3-piece suit, and I was like, look, and he had long hair. He looked just like Tiny Tim, but fascinating human being. One time he's the reason for the don't be early to the show rule, which Shane violated tonight, and ended up.
I violate it every time.
And you saw me in my boxers, so I'm sorry about that.
I played high school football. It's cool,
right? But so thank God it was just boxers. But Nease, but I was preparing to shower, and he just strolls in drinking a 72-ounce cola, sipping on a cola, and I hear somebody come in. And I'm getting ready to get in the shower, so I'm full nude. So I take a washcloth, put it over all the important parts, walk around the corner, cock my fist ready to hit, and he's like, whoa, dog, whoa. So that was, he literally sat there. I am the only person ever to, I had him literally shaking. He had to see a counselor afterwards. All right, so maybe James will show up here in a little while, but good times to be had by all tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party did absolutely nothing on Election Day, as it normally does. And there's been some happenings in the Libertarian Party. I've exchanged some words with the officers of the National Libertarian Party online. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then Shane messaged me and said, how do you deal with all this infighting? And so we're going to talk a little bit about infighting. So first, I want to give you a heads up because there's a cool feature that I'd like you to try out and check out and see if you like. It's at WeAreLibertarians.com, and it is We Are Libertarians Radio. And you can get We Are Libertarians Radio, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week stream of every We Are Libertarians episode ever. And it's really cool because you can hear stuff that you probably wouldn't pick if you're just going back through the titles on the RSS feed. And you can get it on TuneIn. It's been added to TuneIn and Apple Radio, so you can hear it on the iTunes desktop app, or you can get it at WeAreLibertarians.com. It's just really cool. Like, I heard Joe and I talking about the CPS stealing 2 children from their parents because they went to the park on their own, and so some neighbor lady called CPS, and they scooped the children up and wouldn't give the kids back to the parents. So it's really interesting to kind of hear stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily hear. So check that out. Also want to say, please, if you are not a subscriber of the show, consider supporting us financially. We give you all kinds of bonus content for $5 a month or more. For $10, you get access to a special Facebook group where we live stream and you can chat with people. $25 and up, you get a cool poster that I've shipped out, so people should be arriving. Those should be arriving tomorrow for people. And then there's the $100 a month subscribers where you get direct access to me and you get to come on the show after a couple times. So we've got 3 of those people, Craig DaCosta, Jason Doolittle, and Christy Avery. So that money goes towards prep resources, towards all the infrastructure, cool new things like the We Are Libertarians radio. So now when you search Libertarians, when you're on TuneIn, you get a radio station. And we're just trying to make this show more accessible to people, make the ideas of libertarianism more accessible to people, and we need your support. So please. I'm also, thanks to our Patreon subscribers, I'm going to be able to go to PorkFest this year and the National Libertarian Convention. So I am 90% sure I'm going to both of those. They're back-to-back weekends.
Oh, man.
So, but I think it'll be fun to go and see PorkFest and go to the National Libertarian Convention, so hopefully I can see you there. And I can only do that financially because you guys are allowing me to go and report live from the scene, get all kinds of cool interviews, talk to people, and you can live vicariously through me if you can't join us, but I'd love for you to come and hang out. So thank you to everybody that supports us on Patreon. That is patreon.com/WeAreLibertarians, or you can find it at WeAreLibertarians.com. So, commercials over. Let's talk about the Libertarian Party. So, as I ended the show on Thursday, somebody posted in the We Are Libertarians Facebook group, which you can access at the front page of the website, something that the vice chair of the Libertarian Party posts. His name is Arvind Vohra. Vohra. I think it's Vohra.
It's Vohra.
Now, let me preface this. And let me say that I am, and I'm holding it up for the camera. I am a Libertarian Party member. I serve on my state central committee, although I will be ending that commitment in April or May. I am not burning my card tonight or anything like that because
cut it up.
No,
on the air?
Not going to cut it up on the air. Been a member since 2009.
I brought my scissors for nothing.
Yes, nothing. So I served as the executive director of the State Libertarian Party here in Indiana from 2008 to 2012. So I've been deeply committed for the last 10 years to the Libertarian Party. Part of tonight's show will document a little bit of my crisis in faith of that organization, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And so I want to be clear that I do support the Libertarian Party, but it is letting me down, and I think that I'm going to speak for a lot of the sentiments that you guys have out there in Radio Land. And I also want to say that I like Nick Sarwark, and I like Arvind Vohra. I've met Arvind a couple times. He's always been super nice. Nick and I have had many, many exchanges. He's been on the program. I think, by and large, when it comes to the office, he has been the best chair in my 10 years in the Libertarian Party in terms of staffing. He's hired a lot of great people. He's getting the staff moving in the right direction. They're doing a lot of good things. But my main problem with Nick, it will be highlighted in the story to unfold tonight, which is he just is snarky. And I love when Nick is snarky to Republicans and Democrats, but when Nick is snarky to Libertarians, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So, and we'll kind of cover that, because some of the fights that he picks just don't make sense. Now, so we ended the show Thursday, and I see Arvind Vohra's Facebook post posted in the We Are Libertarians group. Now, Arvind writes, quote unquote, "Guys, we shouldn't speak badly of rapists. Many people rape, and they vote. If we attack them, they might not vote Libertarian. That's how some of you sound when you suggest we pander to public school teachers and members of the military welfare complex in order not to lose their votes. Hashtag abolish government schools. Hashtag taxation is theft. Hashtag end the military welfare complex. So I decided, all right, well, there's going to be a lot of discussion around this, and this pisses me off, and this is not something that I think the National Libertarian Vice Chair should be saying. So I started up a Facebook Live on the We Are Libertarians Facebook page, and you can go back and listen to my comments. I put it in the feed. Not many of you listen to it, so if you don't want to take the time, I'll give you the Cliff Notes. I think that it is incredibly insensitive towards victims of rape to use them as a cheap political punchline. And I think that it is not going to endear you to voters, especially female voters, when you sorry, Nease is trying to call in. When you kind of just when you use rape in a way that just downplays the severity of that event, that is one of the most traumatic events that any human being can go through, especially in the environment we're going through right now, where you have Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and there's a growing sensitivity towards, using towards sexual violence, sexual deviancy, towards the very unlibertarian idea that you own the body of another person. And it just doesn't seem to be good messaging for the vice chair to compare, to use rape to make his point, but also to, in the minds of the people reading it, to compare soldiers and teachers to rapists.
Yeah, the thing is we always talk about all the time, and you talk about it a lot too, Chris, is whenever people use horrible things to try and justify their own political ideas and make a political point with something that has happened and it's horrible.
Right.
Just like we were talking about with the Las Vegas shooter and the banning of guns automatically started popping up, right?
Right.
You just don't do that because it's a horrific thing that happened in people's lives.
It's emotionally manipulative.
Right. And that's what Arvin did, is he used a horrible thing, one of the most horrible things that can ever happen to a man or a woman, especially women, because it happens more often to them.
Mm-hmm.
And he used it to make a political point about teachers. Like, where do you draw that conclusion? Where do you make that connection at?
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand.
Right. Well, intent matters. A teacher's intent isn't to go in and steal money from the government. Somebody who joins the military is not joining the military to go steal money from the government. A rapist, his intent is to rape and hurt somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Intent matters. That's as simple as it comes down to. And to compare the two is just horrible.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to what position I hold in the Libertarian Party. What position do you guys hold, Dakota?
I'm the chairman for Henry County, Indiana, which is county number 33. It's on my license plate that's coming in. It says 33L1.
Because you're the chairman, and we have special plates for county chairman.
Well, I had to pay the $30 to get it, but
right.
So that is a luxury that is not afforded to me by the taxpayers. I still had to pay for it.
Right.
But I am a county chairman. I do contribute to the 1994 Society for the state of Indiana, and previously I did contribute $15 a month to the National Party. After Arvin's comments on last Thursday, I immediately went through and canceled that $15 membership to the National, because that was enough for me as a county chairman, as a person who it is my ultimate goal in our county to get people elected in positions, to make us a serious force in our political community, which we have it in Henry County.
Mm-hmm.
It's different than other places. We ran a control candidate last year, which was Jesse Riddle, for county council race. We basically didn't do anything with Jesse. That's why he was labeled the control candidate.
Right.
So we didn't campaign for him. We didn't hand out flyers. We didn't do anything. He went to one town hall, and that was it. And he was 1,800 votes behind one of the winning council members, which is huge.
Right.
So, I mean, that's that's how things are in Henry County, and I want, as the county chairman, to get somebody elected, and I think that we can. But whenever Arvin made those comments, it made me, a county chairman, embarrassed of the National Libertarian Party and not want to be associated with them.
And we, Libertarians, would be happy to take all those monthly donations that you were giving for Patreon. Shane, you hold what position in the Libertarian Party?
I'm an executive board member for Marion County here in Indianapolis.
Okay.
That's my
And you've also run for office?
Yes, I ran for state senate last year.
Okay, so you are two people who, like myself, have given a lot of time, money, and energy towards the Libertarian Party, and we're not here being critical because we're just like the type of libertarians that won't associate with a political party, or we're Republican libertarians who are just bashing the stupidity of the Libertarian Party. Like, that's not our goal. Like, the point of this episode, and in being critical, our intent is not to bash the party, but to make it better. And it is to make our leadership realize that their voice has lost, they've lost confidence in people that should have confidence in them and people that do respect them, but also a block of voters that I think are going to be turned off by this kind of messaging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You know, I tell people all the time, whenever someone complains to me or says something to me, like about how I always complain about the government or the way that things are ran in the government or the things that the government is doing, I always say, you know, I love this country, and that's why I'm so critical of it. I love this country. That's why I want to see it become better.
Right.
And that is how I feel about the Libertarian Party. The party itself and the platform and everything that it stands for is great.
Right.
Libertarianism as a philosophy is great. That is why I'm critical of it. I want nothing but more than to see it succeed.
Right. Go ahead.
Well, for basically, I don't know where Arvin's from, like as far as which state, but
I think New York City. I think
that's
or Virginia. I know he's on the Eastern Coast.
Okay. So basically, the way when you grow up in small town Indiana, for instance, a lot of these kids come out of high school and they join the military. They don't know any better. They're 18 years old. How are you gonna, if they change their mind later and they join the LP and they want to become a candidate, and then our vice chair attacks anyone who's a veteran because they took money from.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there is a disproportionate amount of lost lives in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars from Indiana. You know, and I had in my remarks, I had a lot of, and I showed our Facebook group. I shared with our Facebook group and on the big page actually, the realities of what our Facebook page is made up of. I mean, the amount of people, the top 3 jobs on our Facebook page of 87,000 people, on a libertarian Facebook page, the number 1 job that our fans have is veterans. Number 2 is lawyers, and number 3 is government officials mixed. And then teachers is in there as well. Like, people who interact with the government on a daily basis are the first ones to go, government isn't working, what's a better alternative?
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're the vice chair of the party, what's the first thing that they see? Rapists. We shouldn't pander to public school, quote-unquote, teachers and members of the military welfare complex. A guy that I went to high school with commented, like, I served in the military for 10 years. I fought in Afghanistan. You're going to call me a welfare queen? Like, this is why you guys are losers. I would never support the Libertarian Party now. You know, and I know I'm always the first to say, like, those kind of people are always the first ones to, like, find a reason not to support the Libertarian Party. But we shouldn't be looking to give them the reason not to support us.
Right.
And secondly, people who work for the government and collect taxpayer money, yes, they are, how can I say this delicately? I was reading The Anatomy of the State yesterday. I was listening to the audiobook on Audible before I went to Boss Hogg, and I was listening to Anatomy of the State by Murray Rothbard. And he uses the word parasitic because people who collect any kind of government money are taking that money out of the private sector and redistributing it somewhere else. Like your money, if you are earning a paycheck or a welfare check or whatever, you're getting money from the government. It is coming out of somebody else's pocket. And that's where taxation as theft comes from. It's that very basic idea that you wouldn't walk over and go, well, I need to pay for my health insurance, so I need you to give me money, Shane.
Right.
And then you go, I'm not going to do that. And then I go, well, you know what? Dakota has a lot more guns than you. So, Dakota, I need you to get the money from Shane that I need to pay for my health insurance. And so if we wouldn't do it on a one-to-one level, then why is it moral to do it on a societal level? Just because the group voted to steal your money, does that make it more moral? Not in the view of libertarians. So philosophically, it's not that most or any libertarians disagree with what Arvin is saying. It's the way that he is saying it and the way that it is perceived by the voting public. Because it took me 4 years waking up every morning to work for the Libertarian Party. I didn't get that concept. I went to work for the Advocates for Self-Government, the quiz people, where you're filling out the quiz. It was there. Nearly 6 years into my journey as a libertarian, when I finally got the whole taxation as theft concept and could explain it in a very coherent way. And when you start out with just a punch in the face, like rapists or soldiers or teachers, you don't get them into that 6-year process to finally get to that point and then wrestle for themselves whether or not they want to be morally complicit and taking a paycheck from the government and participating in foreign wars. Like, it is something that every person needs to decide, but they're never going to get that information if they, at their most statist point, are not going to take you seriously.
Yeah, and one of the things that a lot of libertarians agree on is that the nation needs to have a defense system. Like, I haven't talked to a single libertarian that has said, yeah, there's no reason we should ever have any sort of military. I haven't talked to any of those people. I'm sure that there are those that exist because I've seen some of the people in our circles and how they talk. But I don't think that is your average libertarian thinking person.
Right.
Right.
And I would go out to say that the average libertarian thinking person doesn't view public schools as evil as well.
Right.
We are talking about the anarchist faction of the libertarian movement.
Right.
Mostly the ones who aren't here to go to meetings or to help get people elected or to canvass or to come in and volunteer on a campaign or do anything. They just sit around and they yell at people on the internet and
because they
try
don't want to
drive
do anything
people
with
away.
political parties.
Right.
Because they view it as the government, which is evil.
Right. And don't get me wrong, the ones that are here and that help out, I love them. Love them to death.
Right.
They're really good people. But some of them are just, they cross lines and they try to make it harder for everybody else. Do you like freedom or not is essentially what it comes down to. Do you want to start taking steps in the direction of freedom, or do you just want all or nothing?
So this is actually a long-running debate in the Libertarian Party between whether it should be a functional political party that does political action or if it should be an educational organization. And I can see the argument for both sides. Like, my argument is that you do traditional political work, and that is the way that you educate the voters about libertarian ideas and principles. And I think there are a lot of libertarians who don't want to do the hard work of trying to apply libertarian principles to modern-day politics and policy, which is very difficult, and I devote my entire life to it.
Yeah, but I also think that's incredibly naive. If you're one of those people that is incredibly naive thinking. And
in what way?
Because I think if you hold that viewpoint, then
which viewpoint is what I'm asking you?
The viewpoint that the Libertarian Party doesn't have a place in modern politics and policy, just in education. Okay. So those are the people that I'm addressing. So if you hold that viewpoint, I do believe it's incredibly naive because I don't think that person has a whole grasp on everything that government does.
Right.
So I mean, and I'll tell you, like, whenever I first got into this and I started thinking about it, and, every libertarian has that thought, like, yeah, Gary Johnson doesn't stand a chance in hell in winning, right? You have that thought in your head for the entire election. Yeah, Rex Bell is not going to win the governor's seat in the state of Indiana. Like, those things come election day. But you also have to realize, like, that's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to influence modern politics. Like, you don't do it just to show people, hey, these are our ideas. You do it so that people will eventually listen.
Right.
And not just the voter base, but the people who do get elected into those offices. The people like, for instance, for the state representative in District 54, which part of Henry County is, we had Zach Lee running and against the incumbent Mr. Tom Saunders. Republican. It was Republican versus Libertarian in that race. Zach Lee ended up pulling 27% of the vote. Okay, which is huge for a Libertarian candidate, first of all. And
in rural Indiana, especially.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with a family member who said, you shared all this stuff about Zach Lee, and I really expected him to do better, but I guess he's just like every other Libertarian.
Right.
And I said, you're not getting the point, right? Because if you're walking away from this thinking, oh, it's just going to be the exact same, then you're wrong. Because Tom Saunders realized, oh my God, a third-party candidate got over a quarter of my votes.
Right.
Like, I obviously need to listen to some of the things that a quarter of my constituents, yeah.
Is you or is you ain't my constituents.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why I think if you just believe that the Libertarian Party is for educating people on what we believe as a philosophy, then it's wrong.
You're in an area of the state, Dakota, where you guys are the second party. The Democrats don't count there.
Right. The Democrats don't put people up to run in Henry County.
And so if you want to scare people if you want to scare a politician, you've got to run a Libertarian candidate in a two-way race that can get Democratic votes, can get Libertarian votes, and can run a good campaign in an area of the state of Indiana where Rex Bell, as a congressional candidate, wins precincts.
Yeah,
right. Like a 6-district federal congressional candidate in that part of Dakotas County won precincts.
Yeah,
beat the Republican and the Democrat because he's spent so much time as a part of his community. And people like him, and he's run so...
Rex Bell won a township this year.
Right.
Running for governor.
And a township is like there's 9 in a county, and it's one of the 9 blocks. Like, it's incredibly difficult. He overcame straight-ticket voting because of his personality, his hard work, his effort. Like, and I'm seeing from his campaign manager, he won for governor, too. He won precincts as House District 54. Like... the efforts of one man with an army of 12, 15 volunteers over the course of 10 years, 5 campaigns, was able to set a county, 2-3 counties up.
Yeah.
Not
just Henry County.
Not just Henry County, but Wayne County and the one south of that, Blackford. Is it Blackford? Jay? But anyways, that one county. So these rural areas, we are the opposition as the Libertarian Party people. Like,
right.
in a place where Shane and I live pretty close here in Indianapolis and Marion County, which has 1 million people in it, and the donuts add 2.5. I mean, it's a total of 2.5 million people. Like, it's pretty tough for us to win precincts here because of the density of the population. But there's not any reason that we can't win township boards.
Right.
I mean, so when you ran as a candidate, what did you run for? And did you see, like, because what I maintain is that by doing traditional political politics, by doing door knocking and talking to voters and going to forums and going to meetings held by the government, going and running a Facebook page where you give your opinion on the policies that are relevant to the office you're running for, like, these are great educational opportunities for people to see that libertarians are serious, that they can win, that they can govern, that they have ideas that are relevant to the voter. I mean, and you ran a campaign like that, Shane.
Right.
Did you see an educational benefit from running that sort of campaign?
Definitely. And to Dakota's point, some of my talking points in our forums got picked up by the person who won.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a slight step for freedom. We didn't win, but a couple of our viewpoints did.
Yeah.
and it helped out.
It wasn't a total loss. Like, by voting, by wasting your vote, as people like to put it, you have done something.
Right.
You know, it's not a total loss if you vote for the guy that doesn't win.
Right.
Right.
It shows what we're looking for as a society. We don't want to be ruled over. We want freedoms back.
We want to do it ourselves.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, and I think that if you had started from the point of view of anarcho-capitalism, it wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have, especially in my area. My area is very split. It's about a 60-40 split between Republican and Democrat. So I can pull a lot of my talking points and pull votes in whichever area I need to. As far as if I want to talk about social issues, there's sections of my district that works out very well. And there's sections that work talking about fiscal conservatism. And
yeah, so we just have a philosophical difference when it comes to the leadership and what works here in Indiana, which has traditionally been one of the strongest states in the entire Libertarian Party, because it basically runs on these principles, which is do traditional politics, that you need to be a part of your community. Here's how you win an election. Let me explain to you how to win an election. Okay, it doesn't matter what party you're in. Here's how you win. You spend years being a net positive for your community by giving your time to local charities, local civic groups. You show up to city council meetings. You get to know the politicians. You have thoughtful discussions with politicians. You influence their decisions. You hold them accountable in a respectful way. You do it disrespectfully sometimes if they really need a wake-up call, if somebody's very, you got to get attention for the issue. You run multiple cycles. You start at the lowest level possible. You run at that lowest level race possible until you win, or you pick up a significant base, and then you start moving up. Here's how to lose an election. And in all of that, the campaigning that you do is door knocking, mailers, Facebook advertising to some extent, but mostly door knocking and direct mail.
It's making sure people know your name.
Exactly right.
Whenever they go to the ballot box.
So when they get the mailer, they go, oh, that's the very thoughtful person that I met a year ago at a civic forum. They were very smart. I'm going to vote for them. Not, who is this stranger? Here's another piece of junk. It is about developing relationships with your community. Here's how to lose an election. You raise $100. You have no volunteers except for maybe the two other people in your county party. You never do a single thing that resembles electioneering or campaigning. You go to the televised debate in a Hawaiian shirt to get attention. And you say the most offensive things you can to get attention. Basically, I guess I should be honest. He did get elected president, so maybe I'm full of shit. But now that I'm saying this, Trump just doesn't work for local races, and
no, absolutely not.
Unless you own the city,
right.
If you employ half the city, you can get the vote.
You're not Donald Trump,
but that's something that we've seen happen more in like this 2017 elections. And even candidates that have already announced for the 2018 elections, is people acting more ballsy like
right.
Trump was. It's like he introduced this modern era of, I'm just going to talk to you people like I'm on the internet.
Right.
And you're absolutely right, Chris. Right. It's not going to work for modern politics. It worked for the national politics. It worked for Donald Trump because the American people view the federal government so out of touch with reality and so out of touch with anyone in the voter base that they saw a guy who was up there and just didn't care.
Right.
And it was automatically attractive.
Right.
Well, and everybody knew his name beforehand. Yeah.
Well, it was that he was authentic.
Right.
And libertarians can be authentic and be real and be different and not be part of the swamp. And that's what was attractive about Trump. what isn't attractive about Trump is his crassness. It is what turns people off. And I think that not only here on our show, part of me loves him for his blatant shit posting, but the other part of me is just totally turned off and tired of it. Like, I'm exhausted by it. And so I wonder realistically how long that will actually last. Like, will people reelect him because of that? But I can tell you with 100% certainty that doesn't work at a local level. Like, you cannot win an election on $100 with 2 volunteers, never knocking on a door. Like, just because your friends come up to you and say, I'm voting for you, and a lot of people say they're voting for you, you have to realize most of those people are lying to your face. People are nice. They're polite. You probably, Shane, the first time you run for office, going into the election, you're just like, I've got this in the bag.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Why do you feel that way?
Everybody that I talked to seemed to like me.
Right. And you talked to a lot of people, right?
I did, yes.
And they were all voting for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And how did you do?
I got about 5%.
Okay. Which isn't
in a three-way race.
In a three-way race. Yeah. Not bad. But what are some other things that you learned as you were running for office?
Just as far as people want everything directed at them individually. So
right.
Individual conversation works, but it's very hard to reach out to every single person, especially if you're in an area, like Chris said, where we're talking to 100,000 people.
Right.
It's impossible to talk to every single person face to face. So in your messaging, you have to be clear and concise and try to hit the points.
Right.
So most areas will have a couple issues that they deem as important, just in general. If you can focus on those issues, the people feel like you're talking to them because it's an issue that matters to them.
Right.
That was probably the biggest takeaway from it, and something that we need to focus on rather than pointing out. If I want to go in and say the roads were a big issue this year, that was what a lot of people brought up. Roads and crime were the 2 biggest. So if I go in preaching about how we need to completely get rid of, I don't know, the Federal Reserve or whatever, it's not going to resonate with these people here. The people want to know what your stances are on the issues that are important to them.
And if you're running for a county office and one of your talking points is legalizing marijuana, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you know,
like, it just doesn't work. Just because, and that's the problem with most of the Libertarian Party, and I don't mean the Libertarian movement. I mean the Libertarian Party specifically. It is a problem in the Libertarian Party. It doesn't happen as much in the Republican Libertarian wing because they are around effective people. The Libertarian Party is just not effective. And to be quite honest, I have a hard time sitting here behind this microphone saying that it's really worth a lot of your time. Like, if you're in a part of the country like where Dakota's at, and you have a real shot at making a difference, or if you are willing to invest the time in your local community like Shane is doing, as a business owner, going to events, going to not just Libertarian Party events. Like, I see so many Libertarian Party people only going to Libertarian events. It's like a social club with the least social people on the planet. Like, it's like you go and hang out, and it's just like, why aren't we growing? It's because we don't do anything that actually affects anything. And so it just becomes political masturbation. And you build this little echo chamber where you elect a person to vice chair who says, guys, we shouldn't speak badly of rapists. And also, let's not pander to public school, quote-unquote, teachers and members of the military welfare complex.
Yeah.
What Arvin is saying there is, I don't care about anybody but Arvin.
Right.
And the very small group of people that follow me, and I am speaking to my base in the Libertarian movement of 57 people in a Facebook group called the Radical Caucus. Like, you don't get it. You're not actually doing anything that is ingratiating people to the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian movement. All you're doing is making us look like we don't care about people. And
it shows a complete lack of
empathy.
empathy.
The philosophy behind that is it's the Miley Cyrus. It's the Miley Cyrus viewpoint and her shot at marketing, where there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Right.
You know, she starts like all of a sudden her career is in the trash, right? So now she starts taking off her shirt and saying #free the nipple,
right.
and twerking on Robin Thicke whenever he's seen, you know, and that shot her back up into the to the limelight. Now she's a judge on The Voice, and that is Arvin's philosophy, the same as Miley Cyrus, and to where he thinks, if I can say these outlandish things and garner some attention from maybe one mainstream media outlet, hey, look at what the Libertarian National Vice Chairman said, then it's going to attract maybe some of those people that aren't interested in political parties. That is his thought process behind all this.
Right. But you're going to pull in the same people who have that viewpoint already, who are the same people that don't show up to any events or even vote for most of them.
So it's not going to matter. So it's completely ineffective.
It's a complete wash.
They're good Libertarian club members.
Right.
But this is not a Libertarian club. This is supposed to be a political party.
Yeah, they're good for groups like Ancapistan, and that's about it.
Right. So I have to say, and I have to be real honest here, Indiana's fortunate that there are a lot of motivated people, and a big part of the problem right now is recruitment. It's really hard to get people to. Shane and I were talking about the future of our local county party. There's not a lot of people on the bench, and that wasn't that way, 6 years ago.
Even last year.
Part of it is that it's an off year, and it's not. Next year, more people will show up, but you've got to be effective in identifying the people that are worth your time and worth your party's time. And what libertarians do is that when anybody shows up, they immediately put them in a leadership role, and that's not what you want to do. You can't put people in leadership roles who don't belong in leadership roles. There's some people that don't belong in your party. Like, I still am suffering the effects of kicking Melissa Donahue out of the Libertarian Party of Indiana. I have done a lot for the Libertarian Party of Indiana.
Spanking City Hall, baby.
Nobody did more for the LPIN between 08 and 12. I'm just going to say it, and it's not humble, but it's true. And none of that mattered when I told one insane, crazy woman who was bad for the brand to leave and don't come back.
Such a nasty woman.
I was the one that was the bad guy in that situation. So, and that's when all these people go, well, this is just not the way that it works because I left the Republican or Democratic Party because of this kind of thing. It's like, you know what? This is politics. So it goes to the question that you had of infighting, Shane, where you asked me what in a Facebook message prompting me to invite you here. Right. What was your question?
So I basically asked how you deal with infighting. It gets so time-consuming whenever I'm trying to do other things. I'm trying to start up a business. I'm trying to do my job during the day. I'm trying to raise my family. I just got married recently. I have a lot going on.
Right.
The time that I have available that I'm spending with the LP, I don't want to spend it fighting my own people.
Exactly.
I want to spend it fighting the opposition and growing the party and growing the movement.
Right. So how do I handle it? I ignore it or I engage in it selectively. I've never been critical of a candidate, ever. But when Jim Wallace was running for governor in 2012 against Rex Bell, who, as we said earlier in the program, was one of the most successful candidates in Libertarian Party history.
Amazing.
And is a great human being.
Why I am a part of the Libertarian Party.
Right.
And many others.
Well, let's not say that too loudly. We're trying to promote leadership here.
I guess we are,
I'm just kidding. Versus a guy who Jim has, and I know he doesn't like people bringing this up, and I don't blame him, has been arrested twice with two different wives for domestic violence. And in the game of politics, it doesn't matter whether he's innocent or not. It's that he was arrested twice. And the Republican state party here had commercials written bashing him if they needed to be. And Greg basically made a meme saying exactly what those commercials said. And we were the bad guys for posting that. But it was to see what Jim Wallace would do with it, what the party would do with it, and all they did was cry about it, as opposed to saying, how do we handle this? And it was a moment of great infighting that I caused. But I did it for a reason, because the party sometimes needs infighting, because you need to say, our gubernatorial candidate can't have this kind of record. this volunteer is very hurtful to our reputation and to retention for good volunteers. She needs to go. So sometimes infighting, I think, has to be done. It has to be healthy. I think infighting is a smear word when in reality it's policing the organization. Like, are you going to run an effective organization or not? Sometimes volunteers have to be fired in an effective organization. But for the most part, and you know what? Since then, since that woman is not a part of the party, think of how peaceful it's been. You know, there's somebody like there's a person here in the county named Angela that she and I have gone back and forth, and she was the campaign person for the gubernatorial campaign. We had a lot of conversations, and you know, it wasn't infighting; it was respectful conversation about strategy. And it's because we didn't make it personal. It just wasn't personal between her and I. You know, it's sometimes hard to like be an adult and not let it go there, but you've got to like maintain that decorum. And I think it comes down to every individual. You need to be an adult, and a lot of libertarians are very passive aggressive. They'd rather take passive aggressive, indirect shots, you know, on Facebook or email threads or in person, as opposed to just going up to the person and saying, hey, you're supposed to be a leader. I didn't like what you did or did not do. Okay, well, let's have a conversation about that. And then let's have a public conversation about that. You know, and I've had to learn this the hard way because I've not always been good at that. But infighting, I think, is sometimes the word is used to get people to stop having Facebook fights, when sometimes those arguments, those conversations that are taking place are healthy.
Right.
And it's because libertarians are so embarrassed and so insecure about their place in the political spectrum that they don't have the confidence to have public discussions like the other two parties do. And I get that, but you also kind of need to get over it. Like the conversation on this podcast about Arvin's comments and Nick Sarwark is respectful, and I don't need to have a private conversation with them because they have chosen the mantle of leadership, and I have been given a voice by our audience. So we're going to have a public conversation about it. Could I get on here and like rip Arvin and be petty about it? Of course I could. But like, you know, and Arvin and Nick, to their credit, to Arvin's credit, you know, didn't really fire back. And he could have easily just gotten on there and, you know, you're a fat and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't do that. And then had several follow-up posts explaining his position. Like, that's a conversation. That's healthy. That's not infighting.
Right.
That's saying, I don't like what you did. I think you should resign. I don't think that you should be in your position. Well, here's why I think I should be in my position. Here's what I believe.
Yep.
You know, what I don't find beneficial is a lot of...
he was watching the live stream.
Absolutely.
By the way, like, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
Right.
He was watching. He heard it live as you were saying it.
Right.
And still chose not to back himself up in any way.
Right. Meanwhile, the chairman, Nick Sarwark, chose not to take that route. He chose the route of the least common denominator, as he has so often done. And I made a comment in the live stream, which is probably what made him mad, which would make me mad, but it's the truth. I made the comment that, like Trump, Nick and Arvin should have their Twitters taken away because they keep saying things on social media that do nothing but hurt the party as opposed to grow the party. And I think a lot of it is strategic, and I'll explain why I know that, because it's basically public record. But Nick had some snarky comment and then said this: Gregory Lenz for vice chair. Nick knows very well what's going on, and the hurtful, basically traumatic situation that's gone on. I'm sure it's hurtful for Greg. It's hurtful for me. The listeners don't like it. It's not something that I really want jabbed at, and that I appreciate. I don't appreciate somebody that I thought was a friend saying something like that. Like, that's not cool, Nick. And then I wrote back, I see petty Nick Sarwark is out tonight, in which he wrote, the new We Are Libertarians reboot with extra sanctimonious fire. You know, and what did that do for Nick? That took somebody who is often one of the few defenders of Nick and turned him into somebody that doesn't want to defend him anymore. And that person is somebody with an audience of thousands of people who are Libertarian Party members. Like, when I took a poll in our Facebook group, the majority of the people that took that poll, A, were Libertarian Party people, and B, were being detained.
Yeah.
Christy keeps running every poll with, am I being detained? So,
I think it's funny, though, because that is always, like, the winning answer.
I know.
Right.
So, the Trump-style politics just doesn't really work in close quarters. And turning your guns on Tom Woods, who is the biggest libertarian podcaster, having a fight with Jason Stapleton, the second biggest podcaster, and then starting a fight with, I'd say we're the third biggest libertarian podcast. We're certainly growing. We're the fastest growing. Like, why would you pick a fight with somebody that you could easily just say, let's talk about your concerns, or can I come on and let's have a discussion about this? Because I would absolutely, after the Tom Woods thing, I sent a private message to both Tom Woods and Nick and said, do you want to come on? And Nick brushed me off, and Tom Woods didn't respond. So, I'm willing to have them on to have these conversations, but that invite gets less and less appealing with every Greg Lins for Chair type comment. So it's unbecoming of the chairman of the party to poke a fight with somebody who, is like, I'm on the cusp of whether or not I want to be a Libertarian Party member. Like, because I just have a hard time justifying my time to be a part of something that I don't think is that effective. Is it effective? Absolutely, in some ways, like in the way that you talked about, influencing the people who do win. But sending my audience off to hang out with 3 other libertarians once a month who are ineffective and turn other people off, and then no political action is going to happen in the local area, like, why would I want to recommend that you waste your time like that?
Yeah.
I mean, there are places where, like Henry County, where it can be effective, but showing up to a meeting once a month with other libertarians and it's the same faces every time, year after year, like, how effective is that? It's not really that effective. And so is that the best use of your time when there are many other organizations and outlets that are deserving of your money, like We Are Libertarians, or FEE, or Freedom's Future Foundation, or Cato, or Reason? Like, take your $25 a year, don't send it to National, buy a subscription to Reason. Like,
or start going to your city council meetings, your county council meetings. Like, that is something actually important, and it's something that, like, one of the things that I encourage people to do all the time is go to your local government meetings, meet the people who represent you, know which ward you're in for your city council, and know who your city council member is, and go talk to them. I mean, they're in that position for a reason, and they're not just going to shoo you away.
Right.
Like, I just recently started going to our city council meetings in Newcastle, because of a couple of issues that frankly rubbed me the wrong way, and so I went and I had to make my position known. A lot of those people actually recognized me from the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast, which was incredible for me. Like, that was, like,
right.
I felt like I was on a pedestal, like a celebrity status in Newcastle, Indiana. And so once you talk to these people, and I think that my point is that I think that the average person views their people in government, views their elected representatives in government as just this far-off person,
right,
who is morally corrupt.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what point in government you are, every person just automatically thinks politicians are corrupt.
Right.
If that's why the quote, if a politician's mouth is moving, he's lying. That's why that resonates with so many different people. Once you start going to your county council meetings or your city council meetings, you meet and you have conversations with the people who represent you in local government, is whenever you start to realize and take in the facts that, hey, my city council member Mark Koger, he's just a regular person.
Right.
He is a guy just like me who has his own standards, he has his own morals, and I shouldn't be demonizing him just because he has a different opinion than me.
Right.
You know, that is one of the main things that I think people need to focus on.
Well,
and
we
I think
all have opinions. We all have a million different opinions that can change at any given time, and they can be swayed in either direction.
That's why I think that the Libertarian Party has merit to it.
Right.
Because if you go to a city council meeting and you want to talk about the reason that I started going was because they were proposing a smoking ban on all city-owned property. And I was vehemently opposed to that. So I started having these conversations. And, like, you don't have to be a county chairman. You can just go there. My name's Dakota Davis. I'm a member of the Henry County Libertarian Party.
Right.
And you state your opinion.
Right, and you don't even have to say that you're a member of the Libertarian Party. Just go in as a person and say, look, this is important to me.
Yeah.
And if you plead your case, it's the same thing. You don't have to attack people to get noticed. You can go out and present your ideas and your morals and show them to the people, and most of the time people are going to appreciate the realness of it, and they're going to take it into consideration.
Yeah.
If you come out and say you're a rapist, nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, and you're never going
You're
to
automatically being attacked.
You're never going to go into your county council chamber or where your city council meetings take place. You're never going to go into one of those two rooms and be the only person that holds that opinion.
Right.
That's never going to happen. You might be the only person in there that identifies with libertarianism as a philosophy or as a political party, but you're not going to be the only one that has that idea.
Right.
And that's what's so important. That's why I think you should say, I am with the Libertarian Party of Henry County, because all of a sudden, someone just hears a libertarian idea for maybe the first time that they've seen it outside of Facebook.
Right.
And they think, wow, I agree with that.
And it's not somebody screaming at them about their nap that they don't understand or anything like that.
Right.
Or they call a public school teacher a rapist.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's ridiculous to think that So, Chris, you're in the social marketing world, right?
Right.
How often does just putting "you're a racist" on top of your marketing material, how often does that work?
It doesn't work ever. I mean, it's like, look at how people view social justice warriors. Like, have you ever looked at Carl the Cuck or Aid Skrillex or, like some of these other SJW people and gone, I really want to hang out with them.
Right.
Yeah. Like, regular people don't want to hang out with them. Regular people don't want to go out and, like, get offended by everything. And I cannot recommend the Jamie Kilstein episode of Joe Rogan enough.
Right.
Because he's spending some time talking about the mistakes that he made and how you get into this echo chamber of constantly being offended by everything. And you just turn into this person where it's just like, you're trying to offend the other side and make them pissed off, and it's just like an unhealthy life that you're living. And like what Arvin is advocating and what Nick is living is just like an untenable way of life that, trust me, fellas, like it's something that I've really been thinking a lot about. Like, do you really want to wake up every morning and open up your Twitter and just see how awful of a person you are because you've developed this culture of just like shit posting? Like, that's a big reason. Like, I'm friends with the Barstool Heartland guys. Like, Barstool Sports, a lot of our listeners are probably familiar with it, and it's very popular in the college-age male crowd, and it's like ball busting, and it's just like, my friends that work for Barstool Heartland, you Google their Twitter handle and just look at what they have to read every time they open up their social media, because that's the combative culture that their media outlet builds. And like, I didn't want to head that route because I don't want to have a culture in our community of We Are Libertarians, of our co-hosts, where it's combative and nasty and like just an unpleasant thing to be a part of. And that's a huge problem with the Libertarian Party. And Judd Weiss, in his interview with Tom Woods, really nailed it when he talked about the fact that the culture of the Libertarian Party is just like an awful dog kennel where you just have these little puppies thrown in with these coyotes, and they have to fight for their life because everybody's just attacking each other. And then no wonder people bounce after a year or two of being active. Like, You really believe in the ideas, you really believe in the third-party option, but you don't believe in the people that are in the trenches with you. And the culture of the Libertarian Party has to change. And I've thought, like, I want to be a part of that. That's why I served on this term of the SCC. But I just don't. I think I can be more effective by doing it here than being a part of the Libertarian Party and being an active leader in the party and encouraging people here, like, join whatever party you want. Be engaged in whatever political action you think is best, but do it in a way that is emotionally and politically healthy for yourself and for the libertarian movement. Because the culture sucks, and it's not fun. It's not a fun thing to be a part of. Like, nobody wants to spend their time in something that isn't fun. Like, do you think it's fun to open up your Facebook page and see the national chairman contributing to that bad culture? It starts at the top.
Right.
Everything
trickles down.
It trickles down. And so the Trumpian,
shit travels downstream, boys.
Like, I'd love for him to go after the left and the right, and I know that doesn't get him as much conversation as picking a fight with Tom Woods or Chris Spangle, but, like, dude, it's not going to help your cause when you go to New Orleans next year and people are ready to vote you out, and you've activated the Mises caucus, and the Mises people are way bigger than any of us in the libertarian movement. You've got the Libertarian Pragmatic Caucus has now been formed. Like, you've got people starting to rally against you when you really could have been one of the more popular, more effective party chairs if you had just been more decent. And that's really a sad legacy to leave. Those moments where you pick fights are what will be your legacy, as opposed to the great people that you're hiring to run the office, the actual gains that you're starting to make.
Right.
Like, it's the culture that you leave behind that matters. And, having been a leader in the Libertarian Party, I felt that my main duty was to leave a culture that was a winning culture, of well-trained people, of leaders that were going to carry on for, the next few years. And I hope I did well at that. But,
yeah, no one ever remembers the good things that any person does. And, see, I don't remember where this quote comes from. It might have been in a book or a movie or something that I read or watched. And it was somebody telling another person, it doesn't matter how many good things you do for a person, as soon as you mess up one time, that is what they remember you for.
Right. It's the whole, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you did in the past. And I think that's what Chris is trying to hit on with Nick. It doesn't matter what good things he's done, because the only things that people are going to remember whenever they go to New Orleans to vote is him and his Trump-esque appearance on Twitter and Facebook.
Right. Well, and then you have to look at it for the attack dogs that are out there that are just trying to go out and start these fights. What kind of a benefit does an anarchist have attacking a minarchist?
Right.
What kind of ground is there to gain? Why not go after... There's a plethora of communists online that would love your attention.
Exactly.
And would love to fight with you all day long.
Right. If you just want to pick fights, like, there's plenty of leftists who will do that with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you have to do it internally?
So here, and I will put the link to this, because I think what you need to understand is this is a coordinated effort by Arvin has had a strategy, and Nick, I think, is complicit in it, because by saying nothing and never reining in this kind of conversation and never not the fact that neither of them had an issue and doubled down on the fact that rape was used as a political outreach tool, like, tells me that these guys are bad marketers. Like, they don't understand how to market a product. And, even if they were good at marketing, what is the product that the Libertarian Party is selling? Like, if you look at the vote totals the other night, let's look at, let's see. Utah 3rd District. Utah is a very strong libertarian state. John Curtis won in the 3rd District, the Republican with 58.6% of the vote, the Democrat with 26%, the UUT, I don't know what that is, a third party, 9%. The Independent, 2.6%. Libertarian got Joe Buckman got 2.2%, and the Independent American Party got 1.5%. So you came in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th in a race of 6th. In the New York City mayor's race, you had de Blasio winning with 66%, which I can't believe. Yeah. Nicole, somebody, the Republican, it's a very Greek name that I'm not going to pronounce right, 28%. Sal Albanese, the Reform Party, 2.1%. Akeem Browder, the Green Party, 1.4%. Michael Tolkien, Independent, 1%. Bo Dietl, who's basically a joke, a Fox News joke, got 1%. And Aaron Comey, the Libertarian, got 0.2%. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th place with 2,500 votes. Bo Dietl got 10,000 votes, and Bill de Blasio got 700,000 votes. So we're not competitive. And so why? Because there isn't a good product to sell. The voters are not hearing a message that resonates with them. They're hearing rape. They're hearing teachers suck. They're hearing soldiers suck. Like, that's not a winning message. That's not anything that is relevant to the lives of the people you're trying to get to vote for you. And so when you have a vice chair and a chair advocating for this kind of messaging, you get 7th place with 2,500 votes. That's 7,500 votes. You got 7,000 less votes than 6th place. And so even if they were good at marketing, they would fail, because nothing makes a bad product fail faster than good marketing. Like, the Libertarian Party doesn't understand what it exists for. Does it exist for education, or does it exist for political action? And so I think if you're a Libertarian Party member, you really need to decide what side you're on and start figuring out what you want your party to be, and then start being a leader for that position. As Arvin has done. Arvin has picked his side, and let me show you how this is all calculated, okay? So there is a listserv. Every communication, every board meeting, everything in the Libertarian Party is broadcast and public. Because the Libertarian Party, what happens is people leave the Republican Democratic Party and say, we're not going to do things the way that they did it, and so we're going to have transparency, and we're going to do this, and it just, thank God nobody cares about the Libertarian Party, because you'd have all the state secrets right there out in the open, which is insane. But there's a listserv, and you can read all these conversations. The only times that things are actually private are in something called executive session. My sources tell me that there was actually an executive session about Arvin's comments and Arvin's strategy and the social media presence of the Libertarian Party. I do not know what was said inside of that executive session, because it's a private conversation. They wouldn't tell me. But so there has been a conversation amongst the national leadership around this. But and I'll post this link, and you can read what the LNC members, which is the national governing body of the Libertarian Party, how they all responded to this, including our own Brett Bittner and our good friend Sam Goldstein participated in this thread. So this is January 1st, 2017, and he says it to the listserv, and he writes, if 2016 showed us one thing, it's that timid positions are neither necessary nor effective in current politics. Our current platform is designed to technically be accurate while not scaring anyone too badly. This is a losing proposition. A clear, inspiring, and immediately comprehensible platform is far better than the fine print pretending to be marketing we have now. Take the education plank, for example. And education for Arvin is a real hot topic. Like, he's real into ending government schools, which we all are. We get it, bro. Take the education plank, for example. Education is best provided by the free market, achieving greater quality, accountability, and efficiency with more diversity of choice. Recognizing that the education of children is a parental responsibility, we would restore authority to parents to determine the education of their children without government interference from government. Parents should have control of and responsibility for all funds expended for their children's education. What it means, eliminate all public schools. Let people choose between free, world-class, online offerings, homeschooling, and private education in any form. Intransigent supporters of public schools won't be fooled by the current obfuscation. Opponents and potential opponents won't be inspired. Our job is to convince people of our positions, not to mask our positions and pander in order for people to be able to be convinced of our positions. First, they must understand what the position is. I intend to support people for platform committee who will commit to an honest, comprehensible, fearless platform in liberty. The email thread is enough pussyfooting around. Now, I don't disagree with him in that the platform is written to be vague and not turn anyone on or off. And that is because the platform doesn't matter. Nobody cares about a platform. Nobody cares about bylaws. Nobody cares about Bittner. That is why I am against all three. Like, the idea that you would you'd stack the platform committee is so useless. It's so pointless. And it's these people who are in our party who just like the political masturbators who like care about the party platform don't get it. Like, they would rather argue about the philosophical points of a platform than to go out and knock on a door and convince people to be a libertarian. Now, Arvin does a lot of good work. Okay, Arvin has a podcast. Arvin has run for office. Arvin has supercharged the social media. Like, Arvin, for every bad post that you've heard about, Arvin has really done a great job of building a platform in the digital space. I may not like a lot of the content, and you might not either, but he has at least been effective in growing a messaging platform, whereas there was not one before. Now there is one. It's just the messaging isn't good and isn't effective. But Arvin took them to the promised land and may need to step back. But so let me just be clear. Arvin has done some good things. Arvin is not wrong in that the platform is vague, but I'm going to punch you in the face is basically what he's saying.
Right. Well, and even in that, there's a good chunk in the middle of that email thread that makes a lot of sense, and if he would have put that in a Facebook post, nobody would have come down on him. But comparing rapists to teachers is a completely different thing than saying what he wrote in that email.
Right.
And that's where the issues come in, and you have to recognize that as a leader. It's your job to lead your people.
Yeah.
You don't do that with, well, if you don't do this, you're a rapist.
Right. I mean, but essentially what Arvin is saying is we're an education organization, and our job is to build a platform that is clear, that people can grab onto, and if they just read the ideas of liberty through the Libertarian Party, they will be inspired to vote for us. That's not how this works. They want to vote for candidates. Candidates are what matter, not what platform you have. Like, candidates are your salespeople. Your job as the vice chair is to build a network of recruitment. Like, recruiting is all that a state, national, local party should be doing. They should be recruiting candidates. They should be recruiting new leaders. Like, that is the only function of these state, local, and national parties, along with ballot access. Like, keep the lights on. Your job is not to teach people libertarianism. Your job is to recruit. And that's what he doesn't get, is that you like, nobody will ever go really read the platform and do anything with it, even if it's clear and concise, because the Libertarian Party is not an educational organization. This, We Are Libertarians, is an educational organization. That's why I do this. That's why there's resources on the website to teach you libertarianism. That's why there's guides to the libertarian movement. That's why there are 245 episodes now teaching you libertarianism, trying to get you inspired to get active. That's what we do here, and we're really good at it. We're way better at it than you are, Arvin. Like, that's why our listenership is 9 times the size of the National Libertarian Convention, because we're good at it. That's why our monthly net on Patreon is bigger than my state party's take, because we're good at education. The Libertarian Party is not. So if you're being ineffective at it, stop. Start doing your job, which is recruiting good candidates, which you're failing at, which is why we're getting 7,000 less votes than 6th place in New York City, which I would imagine is probably a fairly libertarian place if they heard our message, if they heard what that candidate stood for. So, I've been known to be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong about this, because I've done this for 10 years.
I totally agree with you, Chris. Yeah, that you couldn't have put that any better, honestly. I mean, it's like just like I said before, the party is a party, like it's a political party, and if we want to market ourselves as that, which we are just by running people in elections, like that is what people see. They don't see School of Libertarian Thought whenever we run a person for the governor of the state of Indiana. You know, that then obviously you're doing something wrong by forcing it in another direction. Like that,
right.
It just seems so counterintuitive and so obvious to me sitting here talking about it. And, I mean, it's like you said, I could be totally wrong, but it sure feels like I'm right.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy that it goes this long. It's been going on this long, and it goes this far.
Right.
It shouldn't even be a question on if we should compare teachers and military to rapists. That should never cross your mind.
Right.
Yeah, and it just so happened, like, today, as I was, you know how it shows you, like, your memories on Facebook now?
Right.
So, I guess last year the Gary Johnson campaign had put out a picture talking about military members, and it just so happened, like, it came across my timeline today, which is hilarious because I was coming on this podcast and I knew what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an image that they shared that said, if only military men and women were allowed to vote in the upcoming election, Gary Johnson would win by a landslide.
Right.
So think about that for a second. And then our national vice chairman compared them to rapists.
Like, I think in military he got 33% of the votes in the military.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And let me be clear. I don't feel like Arvin's intention was to say that they're rapists. Like, that's a simplification, but it is the simplification that I think the person who is in the military or a teacher or is a loved one of those people, that is the leap that I think they would make.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's meme culture.
Right.
You get 6 words. That's
right.
what you have to define your stance.
Exactly right.
And it should not be that.
Yeah. All right, so let's start wrapping up. Can you believe it's been an hour and a half?
Has it really?
It has.
Yeah.
We're just having fun tonight.
Right.
We're flying through.
Just ranting.
Just like every week on Boss Hog of Liberty.
That's right.
Just goes by.
So final thoughts for this episode. Let's start with Dakota.
Well, my final thought is that my sister is going to school to be a public educator, and I don't think that she compares in any way to a rapist. Would like to put that out there.
No.
And
she just does duck face selfies. That's
yeah.
all she's. That's all.
You're friends with her on Snapchat, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to tell her to listen to this episode and tell me what she thinks.
I'm surprised that you don't follow her.
I really don't. I don't think that she follows me either.
Are you guys just not a loving family, or
We're really not that close of a family.
Okay.
It's not like the morals over there.
Yeah, that's a lot of togetherness, those people. Yeah. Like, they enjoy each other's company. And listen, I love Paul and Joyce, and I love Danny, and I love Hannah, and Jared's great. But they spend a lot of time together. You guys didn't laugh at my joke. I guess I didn't sell it right. But no, I'm like you. My family's like yours, Dakota, where it's like there's not a lot of togetherness. There's a lot of separateness. And then once a month, we might get together.
Yeah, we'll get together and we'll have a good time.
Right.
Like, we all enjoy each other's company, but like...
My whole 20s, we didn't even enjoy each other's company. It wasn't until we had the 2 nieces. My sister, thank God, saved the family by having two amazing nieces for everybody and grandchildren. But before that, we were just like, do you want to have Thanksgiving? I guess we're supposed to.
Yeah. My family went to the local Mexican restaurant a couple years ago on Thanksgiving. We're not a traditional family in the least sense.
We had Mexican at the wedding, so...
There we go.
And it's so nice to add Sarah to the family. Sarah said they're spending a girls' day together. Francis, Joyce, and Hannah. James Nease just commented, do you guys want to extend this a little bit and call James Nease?
Let's do it.
Do we want to hear from James? I did promise Nease.
All right, let's do it.
Nease, get yourself ready. We're going to call you. He just, thank you, Sarah. She said I'm not invited to hang out with Francis, Joyce, and Hannah tomorrow. James Neese commented, LOL, quote-unquote, my sister's vagina saved this family. Sucks so bad. Shit, you guys aren't going to be able to hear this because the headphones aren't working. So this pair of headphones here you'll have to kind of share between you. So figure out where that goes.
This one?
I think so. Can you hear it? James?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's up, bruh?
Nothing, dude. Just waiting for you to get back to those messages. I feel like I got fucking sidelined like some fucking ugly chick, man.
Bruh, you knew when and where. You don't give me your sass.
Dude, I don't pull out, dude. And like, when you don't pull out, you got to sit here with like kids all night. You know what I mean?
You went too
I'm
hard.
not like your sister with her magic vagina that makes the family come together. I'm kind of like.
You go too hard in the paint, and that's why you've got 2 kids. Do you have 2 or 3? Are you're dad of how many?
I heard you were working on a 10th.
That's how you got to go, man. Like, if you're not, like, you know, constantly playing the field and getting that extra tax money, it's like $1,117 per kid. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I imagine they cost more than that a year, right?
Not if you don't feed them.
McDonald's nuggets are like $2, you know. You can definitely budget it out to get a profit, you know.
How old are they?
3 and 1.5.
I'm surprised you knew, honestly. Like,
yeah, I look
James
at
is
their
a good
social
dad.
security cards when I'm trying to, you know, get cable, you know. So
is there a train? Where do you live?
I'm just saying I'm by the tracks right now. Like, you know, there's like an RV over here. There's like a fucking train coming. Just getting high, man. Like, what's up?
Now, James, you're she's not your wife, is she?
No, marriage is for suckers.
You're telling me. You should tell these 2. Your girlfriend.
It is like.
Go ahead.
It is. You're gonna get married, and then you're gonna burn out, and you're gonna be like, man, dude, it would be so nice if I could get a fucking futon and just like drink Pabst Blue Ribbon all day, but I can't anymore because I got to go stupid shopping at IKEA. You know, don't make yourself go to.
You're just dating
when
the
you really
wrong
want to hang
girls,
on the
Nease.
couch and drink beer all day.
No, James has hand, and he takes a lot of hell from his girlfriend, who is lovely, by the way. I try to cuck all the time.
Everybody likes to cuck, man. Like, cucking is, you know, if you're not cucking, then you're cucked. You know, it's the way she goes.
It's James' niece. We'll put on your tombstone, cuck or be cucked. Now, James, I'm always sliding in your girlfriend's DMs. I'm like, what's up, Ma? And she actually used it against him because he didn't buy enough, what was the one? Jesus.
I forget.
You drank all the orange juice, and so she was like, Spangle would buy me orange juice.
I'm like, then go. I think I said then go then. It's like, I fucking hang here. I have pizza rolls in the fridge. I got Uncle Ben's rice-a-roni. You know, come on. Like, I'm good to go. That's basically what's up.
Now, you are not a fan. You are thinking about running for chairman of the National Libertarian Party, are you not?
As the meme squad, yeah. Like, just because here's my philosophy on this was I always thought the Libertarian Party should be run like a business, you know, with like stock, like if you donate more, you get more voting power, sort of thing.
Right.
And that just cuts out these people because let's just face it, people like James Weeks, like Arvin, they're broke as shit. They won't have a voice if that's the case. Like, you'll get knocked out by the Koch brothers, you know. It's like, so you won't have Arvin making these comments or James Weeks stripping on stage because they're broke. It's like, so
and it's the
you get rid of this problem. You get rid of this problem easily if you run it like a C corp.
It's called, they're the Koch brothers, not the Koch brothers.
No, they're Koch, man. I don't want to call themselves. You know, it's what you sound like, so that's what I'm using.
Now, what else are in your platform points?
Anime titties. You know, just real ANCAP shit. You know, like, I don't think I can even do that anymore because they kicked me out of the ANCAP group for going too hard in the paint.
Yeah, free James Nease.
Yeah, we covered that early on the show that you literally got you shit posted so hard they kicked you out of the dregs of the internet.
Like, you can't be Mick Warlord forever. You know, And it's what happens. Like, sometimes you make wrong decisions, like, I should invade India or something like that, through the history of Mick warlords. But, yeah, they kicked me out because, like, I said doxing is trolling. Like, doxing somebody is trolling, and they flipped out about it. Because nothing makes people, like, libertarians freak out more than, because they'll say all types of shit on the internet, then, hey, I'm going to post your phone number, bro. Like, how about that? And then they're like, oh, shit. They backtrack. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense because that's what we did on 4chan, like, all the time in, like, 2006, 2007 with Scientologists. I'm not saying libertarians are Scientologists. I'm just saying you're kind of the same.
It's so true. Oh, my God. Yeah, the same guilt, the same shame techniques used. Oh, that's brilliant. It's so true, man.
He literally did. He's talking to this dude, and all of a sudden the guy is, like, trying to play it off real cool. Like, it doesn't actually matter. And he goes, oh, I see the big bad meme boy is going to come out and get me. And then James Nease fires back with, your 3-year-old kid already has meth mouth, and posts a picture of him. The admin of the group is like, hey, man, you want me to remove this guy?
Like, this dude was basically, like, he did some, like, I'm saving white culture post, and he's, like, posting, like, his stuff. He's like, yeah, I got, like, 9 kids or some shit like that. So he's just like, you ain't ever going to find me because, like, I'm fucking shit posting. I'm like, is this your wife? I'm like, do you want me to tell your wife, like, what you're posting right now, dude? And he's just like, ban this motherfucker, dude. Ban him. Like,
yeah, and
right
then
now,
James finds her profile because, like, he's taking it off of his profile after all this is happening.
Right.
So that James can't find it. And then James posts a link to it in the comments and goes, too late, bro, I already found it.
See, what's terrifying about James is that James literally is like an African warlord. He literally doesn't care about anything or anyone. He just cares about money. And he will do anything in his pursuit of money and for keks. And so he terrifies these people, and he terrifies me, quite honestly, because he literally just doesn't care. Like, I've had to tell him multiple times, like, don't go after this person. They actually do a lot, and they're my friend, and they mean a lot to We Are Libertarians. And he's like, yeah, but that's not for keks, bruh.
Like, I think I ball on Christy, like, a couple times in the Discord. Like, I'm like, I don't care if you donated. Like, who cares if you donated? Like, I could donate, but...
Can you take the cigarette out of your mouth, please?
No, I have, like, I'm eating, like, these, like, Tostito things. But, I troll Christy in the Discord all the time because she's like, I'm the super fan. I'm like, I've been here since episode 37. And then I see, like, Kat or, who is it, Chloe? One of them is, like, an admin and shit. And I was like, listen here. Like, listen here, thought. Like, back up. It's like, if I was admin, right, like, I would just do, like, Hunger Games type situations to remain in the group, I'm not saying, like, I would pit them in combat, but you have to call the weak every now and then. There's some weak shit posters in the We Are Libertarians group, and sometimes you got to call them. That's what we do in the Discord. We just sit there. It's like, hey, like, welcome to our Discord. Like, I'm an ANCAP. It's like, okay, you're cancered. Like, later, you got to call the weak.
You tried to actually, management of We Are Libertarians, actually, I was on your side, James. I advocated for you, but I had a conversation with We Are Libertarians management, and they denied your request to be We Are Libertarians admin in the group. So,
dude, I won that election. Like, people are like, how's a girl losing? These are a bunch of libertarians. I'm like, because my quality's top notch, dude. It's like, that's what's up. But
James.
But yeah, if I go to New Orleans, I could probably outship post Arvin. Like, Arvin's like, he hates schools. Is that what you guys were saying? Like,
yeah.
He hates schools. Like, I hate public schools. I'm like, charter schools aren't any better, dude. Like I can show you, like, how many times I haven't been paid or how many times people are fucking retarded. It's like, sometimes the private sector doesn't work. It just doesn't work because, I think I told Harry and the Discord group, it's like 99% of businesses are retarded, and it's just, they get money. As long as you get money, you think you're successful. Oh, well, we made a profit, but it doesn't matter if your entire management corps doesn't know what they're doing. That happens a lot. Like there's times that people don't get paid, or people don't get like recognition in the workplace or anything like that. So private schools are just a dumb thing like that. They tend to outsource all their management to management companies in California or Ontario, Canada. You're basically trusting your child's future to a management company that's not even in the U.S., that doesn't even speak English.
Right. Somehow that's better.
It's just like, they manage just the HR side of it, and they manage the accounting. It's like, yeah, but you're paying like $5,000 per student, right? So they can get like educational materials. And I'll tell you a story like how we did this. Like we got $5,300 something per student, but about like 10% of that actually went to the students. Like the rest of it went to software solutions, consultants, outsourced companies that basically handled all the stuff. We were paying the bulk of that money to private companies, basically just to sell us software solutions so we could sit a kid down at a computer for 8 hours a day so they can click next on a quiz. It's just,
right.
That's how terrible it is. And, he'll support it and be like, well, I just don't like public teachers because they steal money from me. It's like, you think private companies don't steal money from you? Is that, that's his rationale is, well, public steals money. It's like, well, private companies steal money from you all the time. Like, you just willingly do it. You think they're not. It's like, well, it's good for the market. It's good for...
Yeah, but the difference is one of those is voluntary. The other one is not.
Right.
Exactly.
I wouldn't even say it's voluntary. Okay, when you go into the contract, you think it's voluntary. I give you $5,000. You spend that $5,000 on my student to educate my student. But they'll tell you to your face, like, yeah, we'll totally spend the money on your student. No problem. We'll get them educated. But the money you gave them, only 5-10% actually goes to your student. So, yeah, you voluntarily gave them your money, but they voluntarily lied to your face about it as well. It's like it's not really the obscure the metrics and all that. Like, hundreds of charter schools, hundreds of private schools close every year because some don't even are not even open for like a day or two. Like there's tons of schools that are only open for like 1 or 2 days and closed because all the financials are gone.
Yeah.
You get wrecked like that because you're trusting something that's for profit that's only wanting to take the money. And once they get the money, there's no obligation to deliver the goods. Or when they do deliver the goods, it's such a baseline product. They're like, well, you can't sue me because we did deliver what we said we're going to deliver, even if it's subpar. And, of course, you're thinking, well, I'll just go to the next school over because it's private. I can just go to this other school. It's a free market. But here's the thing. It's not like a couch or an Xbox or TV or consumer goods. Like, you're dealing with education, right? So you're good in your product and service as like an 8-year-old kid that now has to hop from private school to private school to private school. Like most of his like developmental years are hopping between locations. So the end product you have here is just a student that doesn't know where he belongs. It isn't properly educated. It is below reading level. It is below math level for his age group because there's nothing consistent because you're treating the kid like a commodity that you're trading like Bitcoin or something else.
Which is my problem with privatization of things like the prisons because you commoditize human lives.
No, it is a problem. Like, it's I'm not under like the non-compete agreements anymore and stuff. So I'll openly say it. I think when I worked at the private school I worked at, I think only 20% actually moved up to the grade level. The rest were just getting bumped up just to make your metrics. They're not. I wouldn't say they adequately passed. I watched them just do YouTube all day, like play YouTube, play video games all day. They didn't do any work. And they would just get passed because 75% of them are special needs. And what happens in special needs courses is, well, yeah, you failed 5 classes and technically you should be held back. But because you're special needs, we have to move you up based on guidelines we've like incorporated into our charter, with how the state views it, with how the charter board views it. So you're bumping up kids that are not even prepared to go to the next grade, so then it just snowballs from there. So now you have a high school graduate that's more ignorant than a middle schooler. And then you have to send them out to college, and they're going to fail college. You're not going to succeed in college when you don't even have basic math down. So then they fell out of college, and now you have like a kid that's like $30,000, $40,000 in debt working at McDonald's, and, it's treating kids like commodities on capital gains or any sort of for-profit system is just like you're just breeding an entire generation of idiots, and I don't know how he doesn't see that.
Yeah. So I should, before I ask him about Sarwark, I should say James worked at charter schools as their head of tech, and so you have been a critic, and I want serious, James, but like you've been a critic of Sarwark for long before really anybody else. Like when people were even kind of like into Nick and said he was doing a good job, you were really critical of him.
Yeah, I think he does a baseline job. Like, and what I mean by baseline is the ball and standards are so low for the Libertarian Party that anything that looks like a net positive is kind of cheered as like a great revolution. You know, it's like, well, you know, he did get us like 3 more votes than last year, so technically that's good, right? We got, instead of like 1%, we got 1.2%. You know, that's the metric of success, was we got 1.2% as opposed to 1%. And like, that's a really shitty metric when you had 4 years to prepare for this. You ran into a presidential race totally unprepared. I mean, you did get some ballot access everywhere else. You know, you got ballot access in Michigan, or I think Ohio, too, a couple states. But basically what his leadership is basically done was say, I'm just going to be memey as shit. I'm going to sit there and say, you're not welcome in my party if I think you're a Nazi, which, like, how do you define who's a Nazi? You know, is that your executive decree that I think you're a white supremacist, so you're not welcome in my party? And like, who gets to decide that? Do you get to decide that, or some committee get to decide it? It's just a whole string of issues it's a really laid back form of management that's sort of snowballed into what you see with Arvin and what you see with all the other radical caucus members. It's just he has the inability to be the bad guy. And like, when you lead an organization, you have to be a bad guy sometimes. Like, sometimes you have to kick people out. Sometimes you have to yell at them. Sometimes you have to do stuff that's not popular. And the reason they just don't do this has always been like, oh, well, I want to run next year, or I want to still be like a member. Like, the Libertarian Party has this like echelon of membership where like you can be a basic member, or you can be one of these like 5 to 10 to 15 people that are like these big names in the Libertarian Party that keep getting assigned to these roles all the time.
Right.
They don't want to lose that base. It's like Nick Sarwark doesn't want to be the random delegate from Arizona or wherever he's from. He doesn't want to be that. He wants to be the chair. He wants to be the vice chair. He wants to be on these special committees. He wants to do that. So he can't sit there and say, Arvin, you're being retarded, because then Arvin goes back and tells all the radical caucus, all these other like ANCAP leading caucuses that, hey, this guy right here doesn't like what we say, doesn't like what we do. So the next election comes around, you get booted out because these caucuses rise up against you and say like, well, you're ruling like a tyrant, you know? And it's funny listening to them say that, you know? It's like, you're ruling like a tyrant. Like, these people aren't middle managers in a company and don't berate their employees on a daily basis. It's just, it blows my mind. Like, if someone was basically letting a bad employee just go on your social media account and just blast stupid stuff, there's not one libertarian that owns a business that would have somebody on their social media say rape comments like that. They would be fired the next day, but they don't put that same, like, you know, integrity with what their leadership is. So it's like, if I'm so-and-so libertarian, I own like a company with 50 employees, we do drywall and stuff, and then my secretary who does the social media says something like, you know what's better than drywall? Rape. Because rape is really good, you know? It's like, I'll compare, or if you're a propane salesman, it's like, you know, if you're not buying propane, then you're buying charcoal, and charcoal is literally child molestation. You know, stupid shit like that. Like, if anybody owned a company and they've seen that on the social media website, and they start getting those 1-star reviews, like, they start popping off, that employee's gone the next day. We don't see that in the Libertarian Party, where people do stuff like that and they're gone the next day. Like, we can't. It's like, well, they have to vote them out. But it's hard to vote people out because there's people that agree with what Arvin said, and they'll fight tooth and nail to keep them in those positions.
Yeah, and those people have ran off all the effective people, and so what you're left with is the lowest common denominator of the last 40 years.
It should be that. Like, the Libertarian Party doesn't need to have like a platform where like it's like a purity platform. It just needs to be like a total change in management philosophy. Like the GOP and the DNC, you know, even though they're corrupt in some instances where they kind of collude with certain candidates, they don't tolerate that. Like, the GOP is not going to tolerate a communications major that goes full-blown like, by the way, Jesus says that if you have an abortion, you're going to hell. Let me post this on the GOP's, like, you know, social media accounts, because that's just going to start a shitstorm. Like, they'll get rid of that person. They'll get rid of that communications director. He'll be gone the next day. We don't do that in the LP. These people stay there for like years on end and keep doing the same stuff. There's no accountability. It's all like, well, the delegates have to decide, the voting body has to decide. It's like, but the thing with democracy is the voters don't really know what they want. They just want something they can like, agree with at one point in time that they might disagree with later, so they vote against it later. It's a very inorganic way to kind of make decisions. You're kind of leaving it on to people to vote, but when you leave it on to people to vote, people have an attention span of 15 minutes, and they'll totally forget about it when it's time to vote. And they kind of they rely on that. It's like, stuff I say 6 months from, stuff I say today won't be remembered 6 months from now, except for that one dude that just totally remembers it because he documented it. But then you just have that one dude screaming at it, but James Nease said this 6 months ago, but no one else is going to care because it's so long past that they're just like, well, we'll look at the issues now. So I always thought that, when we have to vote on these like officers that don't have any sort of like checks and balances on there, like people forget about all the stuff they did prior to it, and they just remember this one thing, and this one person brings it up, and no one cares.
Shane?
Right, I was going to say the...
He had headphones on, and he heard his voice for the first time and had to take the headphones off immediately because it freaked him out.
Yeah, well, it just messed up my train of thought there. But, and it's also very loud in there, too.
Sorry.
Basically, we were talking about this the other day about how the LP needs to run more like a business. We don't operate in any way like a business.
Right.
As far as what we expect from our people, how we expect to operate through the campaign season. It's more of kind of, hey, we'll just wing it when the time comes rather than having preparation and essentially doing what a business does and making progress. Granted, we don't operate in the same way with having customers and that kind of stuff, but we're trying to get voters. We're spending money. We're raising money. We should treat it like a business. And
Well, part of the problem is there's no incentive structure. There's no profit structure. Like in the Republican or Democratic Party, you're not paid, although they do have paid employees that do the business of the party, but the currency in the other two parties is political power. And the Libertarian Party has really nothing to offer anybody in any way other than good feels. And so that doesn't really incentivize a lot of people to do anything because good feels are quickly drowned out by the bad feels of dealing with just ineffective losers who are constantly just being awful to you personally and online and embarrassing you, and you just go, well, like, what am I fighting for? And then so you end up with this whole group of people, which I have a lot of people that I've been in the Libertarian Party with that are now in this zone, and I'm quickly headed there myself, where you're just in like this, you're in this no man's land where you're not a Republican, you're definitely not a Democrat, and you're not even a Libertarian Party person. You'll still vote for the majority of the candidates if they're on your ballot, but like it's not worth your time and effort because the incentives are all negative. And so the Libertarian Party, what I'm saying is has to rethink the incentive structure, be it hiring paid employees to manage things or incentivizing with, a better culture, then you're going to fix it.
I feel like we bottom of the barrel like a lot of the times, right? And when it's time for convention, like I see people pop up that like I want to run for District 37 representative. I don't even know who this dude is. Like he just came here. Like I don't know. You're not in my social media. Like I've never seen you at anything, any event. But they just roll into convention, right? And he's like, I want to run for this, and then we just all say yay or nay. Everyone is afraid to say nay, and it's hilarious. Like no one knows this dude. Like he just popped up randomly, says some stuff like I think we had one dude last convention that was I think Israel's a terrorist state. And the only person that said no was Sam, but that's just because Sam's a Jew. That's it. That's it. Like he offended like the one Jewish person in the audience, and that was the only no. Right. So we don't vet these people, and then it's time to run for office. Like we get the notary, we sign their papers, we send it to the election office or whatever, and then we never hear from them again. Like they're on the ballot, but they don't do any work. Like even in Frankfurt for the local races, we had one guy that wanted to run for a council, right? Like he came in, he did the paperwork. I never heard from him again. Like he did zero work, nothing, no yard signs, no knocking, nothing. He just disappeared.
That's fairly common.
What was it?
I said, yeah, that's fairly common in the market here, is that you get a lot of people that come in, they show up for a meeting, and then they disappear.
Yeah, but if you don't vet people like that, right? The reason why the GOP has like a lot of success in Indiana isn't because the Democrats are weak. It's just the GOP has a lot of power players. And what I mean by power players is the guy running in for this Congressional District 4, which is Rakita's old seat.
Right.
I think it's the right congressional district. I mean, his name's like Diego Morales, right? But Diego has spent like the last 20 years in all forms of government capacity. The mayor's office, the governor's office. Like every one of his photos, he's with Mike Pence. He's with somebody else that's like somebody in Indiana. So he has the benefit going into this election of, oh, I know these people, I know this person, I know this. So he's in like $1,000 suit, all these connections. He's been involved in every single community event going forward. And it doesn't matter who the Democrats run, like you have no chance of beating somebody with that level of commitment to both community, state, and government. So it's a loss. No matter who you run at somebody like that, you're going to lose.
Right, and those are the types of people they have
we don't do that. We just pick up whoever was willing to run. It doesn't matter if like he has no community experience. Like he's like a mechanic he's a downtown mechanic at the Goodyear. He puts tires on a car. That's all he does. So there's no credentials here. He's just a guy that wants to run. And so when you put him up there in the debate, it doesn't matter how his talking points are. The people in the audience that you're debating to, they already know who they're going to vote for. So you're up there being like, I think we should lower taxes. It doesn't matter what the Republican says because that Republican has far more social clout than you do. He doesn't have to say anything. People are like, yeah, that dude used to work for here. I've seen him around. I see his posters. I see this dude's name everywhere. And who are you? Just some mechanic running off about like taxation and theft. You know, right. You just get stomped by people that have much more prestige than you. And we have a prestige problem. We don't have any candidates like that. We have Gary Johnson, but to be fair, no one really knows who Gary Johnson is. People in this state don't even know who he is half the time. When we phone banked like his home state of New Mexico, like, hey, do you remember Gary Johnson? Like half the people didn't even remember who he was. So like your biggest ticket item was someone that's noteworthy to an extent that he has to remind people he's noteworthy.
So how do you fix
the problem?
How do you fix it?
You have to attract people that are at least better at things. Like the reason Jeremiah and Rex do better in Henry County is because everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows who Rex is. Everybody knows who Jeremiah is. He's on the park board. He just does what he wants to do in Henry County. You know who he is. You have to find people that are willing to run, and if you can't find somebody that's willing to run that is well known or has some sort of social pedigree, then just don't run anybody at all. It's better just to say, I'm not going to run a candidate in this district than this nobody who's not going to show up, who's not going to do campaigns, that's just going to be like a 1%er on like the vote totals, because it just makes you look bad. Because then people look at the vote totals like, who is this dude that got 1%? It's like you look at that and like, that's some loser stuff. Like you're a loser. Like you can't put losers into a race that they're going to lose, so people can look at it after the vote totals are in and be like, well, I told you that guy was a loser. That's the biggest problem. Like just if they can't guarantee at least 10% going forward, on any sort of race, you shouldn't run them. That should be the new metric, at least for state parties, local parties, and on national. If you can't at least get us beyond like a 5%, 10%, 15% margin, don't run them. Like there needs to be like a system in place to do that. Like vet them. Like what community events do you do? What is your resume? Like what professional experience do you have? You have to vet people in that manner as opposed to just like, well, this guy says some really neat stuff that's pro-libertarian. Well, anybody can do that. 17-year-old kids high in their parents' basement do that. That's a bad metric.
Right, and we should be. I brought this up last time. We need more like business owners, that kind of stuff that have a background in a community. Because if you run somebody for city council and they own the bar that's been there for 20 years. That everybody knows that person if it's a small town. There's 20,000 people that live in this town, and there's the neighborhood bar that's been there forever. Everybody knows that guy, and if he's liberty-minded, then he needs to be brought in and somehow talked to and figure out how to run him as a candidate and win a couple small races that way. It's essentially the same thing, just on a smaller level.
There's also a big problem is people that are successful know the Libertarian Party isn't successful.
Right.
They know you're not successful. So if I'm like a really popular dude, people like me, I got the money to run, it's like, why not just run as a Republican? That guarantees me an ability to win. People like to win. And it's like, if I'm a Libertarian, I'm running for like a Libertarian seat, right? I could take my whole platform that is Libertarian, I can go apply to the GOP, and I'll probably win the race based on what county I'm in. You know, it's just,
right.
Why go with the loser when you can get a surefire win no matter what? Like, there's no Democrat or Libertarian that's ever going to win Boone County, Hancock County, Tippecanoe County, Clinton County. That is so heavily Republican that you can just be a total waste and you can still win that. So if I'm a business owner and I say, I want to be a congressman, there's no matter what the Libertarian says, no matter if he agrees with you, if he really wants to win, he's not going to put that L next to his name because that's just an L on his record. It's like, it's literally like a pun on words. That L next to your name stands for lose. And we just don't have that credentials. And just to get that, you have to secure wins somewhere. Like, there has to be some win on some level. Not just like your local advisory board. Like, I'm the advisory board person in this town of 500 people. You need to like get a council race in a major city. If you start winning council races in major cities, you start winning something that has some sort of metric of success, then people are like, hey, I could win it too. But without a success factor, you're not going to get anybody worth anything that's running for these offices besides people that are just going to get you the 1% to 2%.
Yeah, like there in the area that we've talked about in Dakota's area, there are a lot of elected people at lower levels because of Rex's big coattails. But you don't know their name necessarily. But I remember Andrew Gray was on the city council of Topeka, Kansas. Like, he was an elected Libertarian in Topeka, Kansas, to their city council. Like, and I remember 6 years later, what his name was, because it was like, wow, this is a sign of progress. We're on a city council in the name of a town I've heard of.
Right.
Well, I always thought we should focus on like Nebraska, right? Nebraska has the benefit of being unicameral, and you can't run as a party. You don't have to put Libertarian next to your name where people are going to associate that with. But once you're elected, you can just come out and say it. You can win if you win a unicameral seat in Nebraska and either a governorship or like a legislative seat, and be like, I ran with the Libertarian Party. That's huge because you don't have to have that ominous, well, it's another Libertarian election. Here's that 1% coming through. You don't have to put that next to your name unless you want to put that next to your name.
Right.
And so you can totally obscure the fact until like you do score that win and be like, by the way, I'm a Libertarian. Boom, it's going to be in the paper. Like Libertarian wins Nebraska governorship. And Nebraska's a pretty easy state to win. It's not that big. Its election laws are pretty nicely attuned to running whatever you want to run. That's why like there's socialists that win there. That's why there's like Green Party members that win there.
All right, final thoughts, James.
My final thoughts is I need to get back in Ancapistan, and like I know we listen to this shit sometimes, and like I'm sorry for doxing, but like I literally have nothing to do all day unless I can shit post. And
I'm working on that, James. I'm going to start a campaign for you.
I also need admin credentials on We Are Libertarians. Sorry, Christy, if I have to donate $500 to get this, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to ban you for questioning me, Christy, for questioning me.
He thinks it's only $500. He thinks that's enough. Yeah, please. I sneeze at $500.
I will give you money if you let me ban Christy. Just let me ban her like for a day, just to show her that I'm the warlord now, right? It's just something simple. I'm not going to go too crazy. I might like remove all the women, just because I just think they make bad decisions. But it's just something that needs to happen. But in terms of like Arvin and things that need to fix the Libertarian Party, it just needs a total rehaul about how we elect leaders, how we need to run party business to get these people out. I think, we should definitely ban, like, radical caucuses, get rid of these people. And, like, you think that's unpopular, and there's certain pink-haired people that ban me for saying stuff like that. But it's just
subtle.
And, like, I'm sure Bittner will pop in and be like, well, it's just how it is. I'm like, I know it's how it is. But, if it's your money, you're not going to be doing the same way. I doubt Bittner talks to Comcast the same way, you know what I mean? Or Galt or anybody else. I don't know where Bittner works anymore. I assume he works at Comcast because he looks like he installs cable.
James, I was going to stick up for Christy and say you're never allowed to ban Christy. She's done too much for us, but she says $1,000 and you can ban her for a day.
Ban her for a day, dude. Like for $1,000, like I'm not only going to ban her, right? Like I'm going to drive to her house and I'm going to knock on her door and I'm going to sit there and be like, "Hi, I'm James, the admin of the We Are Libertarians group. Do you care to like take a minute survey and just pop in and crash on her couch and sleep on her couch and never leave?" Like,
honestly, I think she's used to that, honestly. All right, thank you, James. This has been mind-expanding and odd.
I mean, it's always odd when it's on the phone, man. Sometimes you got to call in, and I'm not there to make like propane jokes or anything like that, you know. But I'm sitting there looking at it on the screen, and goddamn, dude, like it's super tiny. Dakota's got a glass. I don't think there's any drink in the glass. He's just looking at the thing, man. Do you have juice in that or what?
Oh, it's empty. It's totally empty now.
And then Shane has a vat of liberal tears.
Yeah, and they're gone now.
It's a Yeti tumbler, so he spent $78 on his tumbler.
We got to point out that Chris has like a really old monitor because that's a DVI cord, and he needs to update the HDMI. And if Christy wants to donate some more money for an HDMI cord to get him some new computer screens, that would be great because this is 2017, not 2012, Christy. He shouldn't be using DVI cords. That's Goodwill level shit.
This was free.
Goodwill, exactly. Goodwill level shit. Get him an HDMI cord. Get him like a 4K resolution monitor, 4K. And I won't ban you.
All right, thanks, James. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Silly. I love that kid. I mean, you see what I mean? Like, if people, like, I'm always worried that, like, and we're libertarians, James exemplifies we're libertarians. Like, the first 5 minutes of that phone call, you go, I'm not going to take this seriously. Listen to this. Yeah. And then you listen to him and you go, wow, that's really smart.
Right.
You know, like, that's quintessential we're libertarians. I think James nailed it with so much of his analysis of the Libertarian Party, and it's tough, but if you're a libertarian and you want to change a neoconservative party like the Republicans, or you want to change the Democratic Party because you're, a Glenn Greenwald liberal, or if you want to change the libertarian by changing the political system, I mean, none of this is going to be easy.
Right.
And there's going to be challenges no matter what political action you take, if you want to take political action. There are the people like Roger Paxton out there who say taking political action is a complete waste of your time. Just change your community, I don't know, spiritually or whatever, where you're connecting people on a private basis, and you're creating things like the private healthcare system that Rand Paul wanted to support by, opt out of insurance. We find doctors that opt out of insurance. You donate to this fund. You only use it for catastrophic stuff. All that good stuff. Are you talking shit in a group chat, Dakota?
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Because Jeremiah says, let Dakota go home. He has shit to do.
He is referencing my plans in the morning. I'm taking Jeremiah Morrill hunting for the very first time tomorrow morning.
Oh. Jeremiah, let me explain something to you. Dakota is a grown man. He has a better beard than Shane and I combined.
That's what we were talking about. He's very bossy.
I know. He knew when he signed up to come on We Are Libertarians. He knew that.
I knew.
It's not even 10 o'clock yet.
No.
This is a record for We Are Libertarians.
I still got time to go home and play Skyrim for like 3 hours.
Leave us alone. Stop bossing us around. You are not my boss. I'm your boss.
Let me do my thing, Mom.
You want me to cancel you? I will cancel you. But guess what? Boss Hog of Liberty with Dakota Davis. Changing the art today. Ooh. All right, very good. So where can people listen to the Boss Hog of Liberty?
Just go to bosshogliberty.com, where we are East Central Indiana's favorite podcast, and we are also Indiana's #1 tractor podcast. So you can check us out on the website, or you can search Boss Hog of Liberty on YouTube. I take care of all the YouTube videos, and they get put up there, and on our Facebook page.
It's like an unironic Mayberry meets Joe Rogan. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like
that's like we were we were talking about like doing a facelift on the artwork, right? And
Right.
you and I were messaging back and forth, and you're like, "Well, in your artwork, you really have to put like what your podcast is," and I'm like.
I was like, what are you trying to express to the listener? You're like, I don't
listen
know.
to the podcast.
Right,
like,
yeah. So you'll get there. So yeah, check it out, Boss Hog of Liberty. All our We Are Libertarians podcasts are at wearelibertarians.com. Shane, final thoughts?
Basically, man, just keep the infighting to a minimum. That's the biggest thing out there. If anybody's involved in the party, it does no good to take shots at the back of your fellow soldiers in front of you.
Right.
Zero good. There's a reason why for years the back row in the military never shot.
Right.
to exert all that energy on all the Bernie bros out there.
Exactly. Just why even waste your time? Like, I'm at a point where, you know what I do? I literally post my thoughts and then I unfollow the post as I post it. So I never see any of the comments. Like, I've got posts from the last 3 days that I've literally not gone back and read the comments. Because when I'm in the emotional state to read comments on Facebook, I will do that. But, like, you know, because you just have to go, all right, because I get pissed when people disagree with me. Like, yeah. I do.
I am the exact same way.
And so I get mad about it, and I want to be like, listen, you fat mother, you know, like I want to go back at people, but like I have to just be in a place where I'm just like, all right, let's have a real dialogue with this person. And a lot of times I will flare up and go at that person. They'll go back at me, and then after like 10 comments, we're friends.
Watch out, son. Right. Nap's about to be violated.
Right. You come on my lawn, break 5 of my ribs. I'm using my yard nuke on you. Like
recreational yard nuke.
Is that Rand Paul story getting weirder and weirder? Something about that doesn't add up. Something is going on here that we don't understand and don't know, and it's really
It was
weird.
Entirely politically motivated. I'm just going to come out and say it right now.
Yeah,
his lawyer's story is BS because he's trying to avoid the federal charges that come along with attacking a senator.
Right.
And he's just trying to get it lower down to just a regular assault between neighbors.
Exactly. Whereas Rand Paul was retweeting that it was not, that it was politically motivated. He was hinting at it.
They had 7 of Rand Paul's neighbors and the president of the homeowners association that said, yeah, he takes really good care of his yard. There's no way that it was over lawn clippings and leaf compost.
Interesting. Yeah, no, there's something... And I think even if it's not like Rand might be petty enough to be like, no, it was politically motivated, send him to prison. I hate that guy. Like,
I've had some neighbors.
That would be me. If I was Rand Paul, that would be me. I'd be like, finally, this douchebag is out of my neighborhood.
Yes, he's going to a federal penitentiary, and I hope you get anally raped.
Let's reopen Guantanamo for this person.
Calling Trump. I've got one of those favors I've got to call in.
Right.
So yeah, do we still waterboard Donald? So yeah, there's something weird about that. But yeah, what was I going to say? What was I talking about? All right, let's go back.
Speaking of which, waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay sounds great if you don't know what either of those two things are.
Exactly. So much fun.
They take care of that in the Kennedy sex tunnels.
It's Cuba. Shane, final thoughts?
That's it for me. I mean, I don't have a podcast like anybody else unless we're starting up Wall Sports where we can give the libertarian perspective of
Is he going to be the Wall Chick McGee?
Yes.
The Wall Chick McGee.
You I actually know a libertarian that knows anything about sports.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Jeremiah knows a lot about sports.
Yeah, Jeremiah knows a lot about everything.
Yeah.
And he's happy to tell me on my own podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about sports.
Nothing?
Me either.
At all. No.
I just cannot stand even just the atmosphere surrounding sports.
I took a I took a date to a Colts game. It's her first football game. She's Colombian. So when I told her we were going to a football game and we showed up at the Colts game, she was like, "What?" So confused. But it was like the blind leading the blind. It was she's like, "Okay, so if they take that thing and they get it in there, they get that many points." I'm like, "Uh-huh."
You're like, yeah, and they get paid millions of dollars to do it.
Right.
That was your chance to look like an expert, though.
Oh, I did look like an expert. I don't know if any of it was right, but I certainly looked like I knew what I was doing. So, yeah, maybe a sports show someday in the future.
Right.
So
we got to get that going.
Yeah.
And
I'll tap you.
Very good.
All right, thanks for being here, Shane, and thanks for looking so handsome.
Thank you for having me.
You too, Dakota. All right, thank you for joining us here on this episode of We Are Libertarians. You guys are so good to us, and we appreciate everything that you do for us. Please be sure to subscribe on Patreon. I'm even bored with myself. One note, and I hope that you all listened to this. I put a warning in there, and I'll put another warning at the beginning of the show, because I don't want to lose a single one of you. You're all I have left, listener. You're the last thing in my life that I can count on. So please don't abandon me, too. I need you to make sure that your RSS feed is right. Now, here's what an RSS feed is. I take the file that I've recorded on the Zoom, I upload it to a website, I put the title and the all the stuff in there. It then sends it out to this little feed, this RSS feed, that then puts the file in your podcatcher, and you download from my host. All right? Now, I've been using something called FeedBurner. And FeedBurner, I've used it for years because this was the best option 6 years ago. And FeedBurner basically reroutes and gives... Back then, you couldn't get statistics unless you used FeedBurner, really. So... I used FeedBurner to get statistics and to help change a bunch of different reasons. Anyways, not important. But FeedBurner is owned by Google. Google has a habit of shutting things down very quickly for almost no reason, without warning. And it also has problems because they don't keep it updated anymore. And so I'm not going to use the FeedBurner RSS feed anymore. We are going to use the Fireside RSS that our host provides. So, if you have problems, you should not notice a difference. Like if you're on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Casts, you've already been updated on the platform with the new RSS feed, and you shouldn't know a difference. Most of you listen on the, 95% of you, which is amazing, listen on the podcast app, the Apple Podcast app on the iPhone. So, but for those of you who use a Downcast, like I use Downcast, and I subscribe to the FeedBurner feed, if here in the next couple months that feed may stop working, and if it does, go to wearelibertarians.com and grab the new RSS feed. And when we switch, there's problems and the feed stops working for any of the We Are Libertarians podcasts, go to wearelibertarians.com and grab that new RSS feed. It's a nerve-wracking thing to take thousands of subscribers to this one URL and move them to another URL and not lose a single one. So I'm going to try my best to make sure that none of us get separated. Okay, so hold each other's hands as we walk through Congress here. If the feed stops working, wearelibertarians.com. We've got 8 podcasts. You can go to the front page. They're all updated with all the new RSS feeds. If you want to be proactive and put that in your feed your podcatcher, you can do that now. You can listen to We Are Libertarians Radio while you're there. So check out all of our podcasts, get the feed, make sure that you don't get lost. We would greatly appreciate it. So big things always happening, and thank you for your support, because the ability to upgrade all of our podcasts to the podcast host, it's expensive to do that, and but it's better for you, it's more reliable, and our Patreon subscribers pay for all of that, and I can't thank them enough. So thank you for joining us here on this episode of We Are Libertarians, and until next week, we say be good to each other. Join in on the conversation. Visit the sidebar at wearelibertarians.com and join our Facebook group, meet other listeners, and get our daily news dump.
The Boss Hog of Liberty podcast is the latest hit on the We Are Libertarians network. Each week, Jeremiah Morrill and Dakota Davis explore life in Henry County, Indiana.
It's a show about our circle of friends, public officials, and our experiences. 80% observation, life, humor, and 20% politics. Boss Hog of Liberty is the day-to-day happenings of Henry County, Indiana, which is just like your community. Add us on iTunes and sample us today.
Dear Leader would want you to.
The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is Liberty. Each week we strive to bring you the best guests in talk radio. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad delivers weekly interviews of noteworthy politicians, experts, and activists. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is bringing the party to the Libertarian Party and launching ideas in your direction. Check us out at JohnnyRocketLaunchpad.com. You can hear me, Kurt Nelson, and the beautiful Heather Nixon talk about the ideas of liberty. Rock and roll.
Hey guys, this is Roger Paxton, and if you're fed up with the government running every single aspect of your life, but you're not listening to the Lava Flow podcast yet, then what's wrong with you? Check us out at thelavaflow.com, or just go back to sucking up to the government. The Lava Flow podcast, striking the root every single episode.
It's time to shake up your podcast feed, folks, by subscribing to Lions of Liberty, the only libertarian variety show out there. Spend Mondays with me, Mark Claire, as I feature in-depth interviews with great names in the libertarian community and fun roundtable discussions.
Electric Liberty Land with me, Brian McWilliams, every Wednesday, your weekly dose of comedy, culture, and liberty.
And Felony Fridays with me, John Odermatt, where I expose injustice in the broken criminal justice system.
Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and at lionsofliberty.com.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at WeareLibertarians.com.